my fourth grade paper.
Cool.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Elle Woods, and this is Freezer Woods, and we're both Gemini vegetarians.
She's wearing lip gloss. Must be a pick-me. That sentence, equal parts insult and internet inside joke, has been haunting our For You pages for more than we'd like to admit. Somewhere between starter pack memes and Twitter hot takes, we decided that certain beauty products aren't just choices, they're character flaws. There's a whole aesthetic profile built around the so-called pick-me girl. Cherry-flavored seltzer, sparkly eyeshadow, winged eyeliner, crop tops, clear lip gloss. Guilty, 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 and proudly guilty again. But what does it actually mean when someone calls your favorite mascara pick me? Are we talking about makeup or morality? Because here's the truth, behind every stick of lip gloss or fluttery lash is a much deeper story, one that touches on class, race, gender, and our collective fear of femininity. These aren't just products we're judging, they're signals, symbols, codes, and they've been policed for centuries. So today I'm going to trace the glossy, glittery, highly contoured path from Victorian arsenic powder to the 2000s juicy tubes, from old Hollywood lipstick lore to TikTok's clean girl aesthetic, and ask, why do we keep shaming women for how they choose to look? And more importantly, who benefits from that shame? This is a story about beauty, about performance, and about power. So grab your compact and your great lash mascara and let's get into it. Chapter 1. What even is a pick-me? The term pick-me girl started out as a meme, a kind of internet shorthand for a very specific kind of social performance. On TikTok and social media, it was used to mock women who publicly distance themselves from other women, especially by rejecting stereotypical feminine things. You've probably seen the trope, I'm not like other girls, I don't wear makeup, I hate drama, and I'd rather be fishing with the boys. This archetype was seen as someone who curated her personality to be more appealing to men, often by putting down other women in the process. In its earliest iterations, the label pick-me was a form of feminist critique, a way to call out internalized misogyny. It was meant to shine a light on the ways women often unconsciously reinforce patriarchal values in hopes of being chosen for a relationship, for validation, or simply for social safety. But like most viral terms, the meaning evolved and got murkier. Somewhere along the way, pick me stopped being about a mindset and started being about aesthetic choices. Suddenly, wearing false lashes, applying contour, or posting a cute selfie with a flirty caption wasn't just a beauty routine. It was read as a desperate bid for male attention. The label jumped from behavior to preferences and eventually landed on objects. Lip gloss, pick me. Acrylic nails, pick me. A visible bra strap under the tank top, pick me energy. The issue isn't just that the term is overused, it's that it's become a way to discipline femininity, implies that anyone who enjoys girly things is shallow, insecure, or trying too hard. There's a built-in assumption that hyper-feminine aesthetics aren't authentic, that if you like glitter, you're doing it for someone else. But what if, and hear me out, we just like shimmer? What if the pleasure of a glossy lip or an overlined cat liner isn't about being picked at all? This is where it gets especially contradictory. We're living in an era that celebrates individualism, self-expression, and aesthetic freedom. TikTok is full of people experimenting with looks, reclaiming styles from different decades, and blurring gender boundaries. And yet, feminine-coded styles, especially those associated with working-class women, teen girls, or communities of color, are still met with skepticism. Minimalist clean beauty is seen as effortless chic. The no-makeup, makeup-look skin tint, brushed-up brows, dewy highlighter is praised as elegant and aspirational. But if you like full coverage, dramatic lashes, rhinestones, or glossy pink lips, that's too much. That's trying. That's pick me. So even in a culture that claims to empower women to whatever they want, there's a quiet undercurrent of judgment. Not all choices are treated equally, and femininity, especially when it's loud, proud, and unapologetic, is still framed as suspect. The idea that some forms of beauty are real and others are fake or thirsty didn't come out of nowhere. It has a history, one that spans centuries of shaming women for how they present themselves and why. and that's where we're headed next. Chapter 2, beauty products we love to shame. So let's talk about the hierarchy of beauty products, because whether we realize it or not, makeup isn't just makeup, it's a cultural code. And some products, some brands, and some aesthetics are more socially acceptable than others. In a current beauty landscape, the dominant ideal is effortlessness. Think dewy skin, brushed up brows, soft matte blush, and just a hint of gloss, but not too much. The kind of look that whispers, "I woke up like this," even if it took a $60 skin tint and 3 layers of serum to achieve. Brands like Glossier, Merit, and Summer Friday have crafted entire identities around the soft focus, bare-faced illusion. It's clean, it's modern, and it's often expensive. This aesthetic, often dubbed the clean girl look, is praised as aspirational, chic, and mature. It signals restraint, sophistication, and often subtle wealth. The message is clear. If you're really beautiful, you won't need much to enhance it. It's a beauty standard that elevates naturalism, but only the kind of natural that's been airbrushed, curated, and framed by privilege. Now compare that to the styles we're told to mock or outgrow. Glittery lip gloss, dramatic winged eyeliner, contouring kits, rhinestones, frosted pinks, and ultra-defined brows. These aren't just makeup choices. They're read as symbols of being too much, too obvious, too eager to be seen. But look closer and you'll realize that these so-called extra beauty styles are deep-rooted in working-class aesthetics and Y2K girlhood, the kinds of expressions that weren't historically included in mainstream beauty media, but thrived in communities that created their own glamorous realities. Think back to the early 2000s. A Lancome Juicy Tube wasn't just a lip product, it was a declaration. It smelled like vanilla frosting or another fruity flavor and glitter and made your lips impossibly shiny. It was sticky, impractical, and so fun. I think I remember the first time I bought one of those. I think it was the early 2000s. Back then, I think it was like around $20, and I remember thinking that was so expensive and it was like an insane splurge for me to try it. And we carried them in our purses like trophies, bought them with our babysitting money, and applied them religiously in the back of the school bus or while loitering in Claire's. They were glossy, girly, and unashamedly youthful. And yet, as we got older, we were told to outgrow it. That real women wore lipstick, not gloss. That shimmer was for teens, and if we wanted to be taken seriously, it was time to swap out our favorite lip balm for a neutral nude of Bobbi Brown. But this beauty shaming didn't start with us. Rewind to the 1950s, and you'll see teenage girls huddled in school bathrooms reapplying Revlon's Cherry in the Snow, a hot pink-red lipstick that was the true shade for bold, flirty girls. Adults clutched their pearls. Beauty columnists warned against the dangers of looking too made up, too fast. But for the girls, lipstick wasn't vanity, it was identity. A rite of passage, a personal revolution. Even earlier in the golden age of Hollywood, we saw beauty binary archetypes play out on screen. Marilyn Monroe as a sexy, sultry sign in red lipstick and false lashes, and Doris Day as a fresh-faced and natural beauty who represented sweetness and wholesomeness. One was sensual, the other safe, and both notably were performing femininity. They were two sides on the same coin, just packaged for different types of male approval. These archetypes persist. Today we see them reincarnated as a clean girl versus the baddie aesthetic, a modern update on an old framework. And beauty products still fall into these moralized categories. A sheer Chanel bomb, sophisticated. A Too Faced glitter gloss called a unicorn teen, immature. It's not really about the product, it's about what it implies, because makeup is never just makeup, it's class, it's culture, it's performance, and in a culture that equates invisibility with elegance, anything that calls attention to itself, especially when worn by the wrong kind of woman, gets dismissed as pick-me, extra, or fake. But let's be honest, what's more performative, a full face of contour or pretending you woke up with perfect skin and brushed up eyebrows? The natural look is often just as constructed, just as carefully executed. It's simply more socially acceptable because it appears effortless. So the next time we're tempted to cringe at a glitter shadow or overlined lip, maybe we should ask ourselves, are we reacting to the product or to the person we've been taught that the product belongs to? Chapter 3, A History Written on the Face. How beauty has always been about control. Beauty has never been just about how we look. It's about how we behave. For centuries, beauty culture has functioned as a social script, a visual language of morality and respectability. From powdered cheeks to red lipstick, what women put on their faces has always carried a weight far heavier than pigment. We've been praised for looking good, scolded for trying too hard, and punished when we dared to enjoy the process too openly. In Victorian England, visible makeup was considered scandalous. Respectable women were meant to appear naturally beautiful, not artificially enhanced. The use of cosmetics was associated with actresses, courtesans, and women of questionable virtue. Yet the desire to appear beautiful didn't disappear. It simply went underground. Women resorted to secret, often dangerous methods to brighten their skin or tint their lips. Lemon juice was dabbed on freckles, beetles were crushed to create a natural flush, and arsenic wafers were consumed to achieve a ghostly porcelain glow. A beauty ideal that ironically could kill you. The paradox was clear. Women were expected to look radiant, but without leaving any trace of effort. To be beautiful was acceptable. To be seen trying was not. By the 1920s, the cultural pendulum swung dramatically. Flappers rejected the demure standards of their mothers with bobbed hair, kohl-lined eyes, and crimson lips. These beauty choices weren't simply fashion statements, they were acts of rebellion. Red lipstick in particular became a symbol of sexual freedom and female independence. But with that visual rebellion came social pushback. In some American towns, local leaders attempted to ban lipstick for women under a certain age, arguing that cosmetics encouraged women to be too promiscuous and gave them moral decay. Makeup, newly embraced by women of all classes thanks to brands like Coty and Max Factor, were still seen as dangerous, a sign that women were acquiring too much power in how they presented themselves. By the 40s, beauty had been weaponized, quite literally. During World War II, makeup became part of the war effort. Women were encouraged to keep up with their appearances as a way to boost morale for troops abroad and the men at home. Red lipstick, once rebellious, was reframed as patriotic. Revlon ads promised that a swipe of Victory Red could keep your men thinking of you and keep America strong. Beauty was no longer a private matter, it was a public service. In Britain, where makeup was rationed, women resorted to burning cork for eyeliner and using beet juice for blush. To be beautiful in wartime was an act of resilience, but also an act of conformity. Even when beauty was celebrated, it was never truly autonomous. It was always in the service of something greater than self. The 1950s and early 1960s ushered in the era of the domestic goddess, the ideal woman as soft, feminine, and above all else, perfectly groomed. Beauty became a form of discipline. Magazines and advertisements emphasized the importance of maintaining your appearance for your husband's happiness and your own moral standing. Lipstick shades came with names like Kiss Me Coral and Cherries in the Snow, and compact mirrors were now fashionable, but only if used subtly. Public grooming was acceptable, but only when performed with grace and discretion. Beauty was encouraged, but still never to be flaunted. You were expected to look good, but not appear to enjoy it too much. By the 1990s and early 2000s, the narrative shifted once again, this time towards effortless perfection. Maybelline's now iconic slogan, "Maybe she's born with it," captured the cultural fantasy of innate beauty. The ideal woman didn't need contour or lip liner, she just happened to look amazing. Or at least that was the illusion. In reality, the no makeup look required its own arsenal of primers, tints, concealers, and highlighters, just as much effort but better disguised. Celebrities like Alicia Silverstone and Jessica Alba embodied the low maintenance ideal, while teen girls obsessed over butterfly clips, sparkly gloss, and MAC eyeshadow singles in shimmering pastels. On TRL and 17 magazine, the hyper feminine aesthetic flourished, but it came with judgment. Gloss was seen as immature, glitter was seen as trashy, and anyone who wore it too proudly, too loudly, risked being called desperate. It wasn't just about products, it was about who wore them and how much effort they seemed to be putting in. The same juicy tubes that were the rite of passage for some girls were seen as cringeworthy on others. The same red lipstick that signified strength in the 40s could mark a woman as too much just a decade later. What we wore was never just about beauty, it was about signaling who we were, where we belonged, and what kind of woman we were allowed to be. And yet, that same theme remains constant across time. Women were expected to be beautiful, but only in the right way. The history of beauty is in many ways the history of hiding the labor behind it. We're told to glow but not sweat, to be flawless but not fussy, to look amazing but never admit how much we tried. And when we break those rules, when we wear something glittery, dramatic, or attention-grabbing, we're not just seen as unfashionable, we're seen as morally suspect. The language may change from vain to fake to pick-me, but the message is the same. Visible femininity is dangerous. I feel like a lot of the aggression is usually from other women who either are jealous of a certain woman or just like the cattiness of it all. Chapter 4, Algorithms, Aesthetics, and the Modern Beauty Trap. In today's digital world, beauty seems more open and inclusive than ever before. Social media platforms have turned everyday routines into curated performances, and anyone with a ring light and a Sephora card can become an overnight tastemaker. Tutorials are no longer confined to celebrity makeup artists or fashion magazine editors. They belong to students, part-time barista's, stay-at-home moms, and teenagers experimenting. Basically anyone that has a cell phone or in a ring light and wants to try. At a glance, it all looks like a victory for individualism, a generation liberated from traditional beauty gatekeepers. But the truth is more complicated, because even in this democratized space, this double bind of beauty remains alive and well. It just wears a different filter now. The term pick-me, originally used to call out women who pander to men by putting down other women, has taken on a new role in the beauty conversation. It no longer applies solely to the words or attitudes. It now sticks to lip gloss, blush, and bow-shaped hair clips. The moment a woman chooses something too soft, too curated, or too feminine, the label is quick to follow. Fake freckles and a glowy blush? Trying too hard to look innocent. Heavy contour and dramatic lashes? Trying too hard to be hot. You can't win, and crucially, you're not supposed to be seen trying at all. Online aesthetic choices are rarely interpreted at face value. They're treated as coded statements, often political, always up for critique. TikTok's algorithm rewards extremes. The more defined, the more stylized, the better. It encourages aesthetic archetypes: the clean girl, the coquette, the baddie, the downtown girl, the sad girl, the granola girl, and the mob wife. Beauty is now a genre, but whichever one you choose, there's a good chance someone is already preparing to critique it. The clean girl with her slick back bun and glazed skin is accused of perpetuating elitism and whitewashed minimalism. The baddie with her lashes, lip liner, and sheen of Fenty highlighter is labeled as superficial. The soft coquette who dares to wear lace and bows is infantilized. What unites these widely different styles is the same old suspicion: who is she trying to impress? That question, who are you doing this for, has followed women's beauty choices for generations, but I think a lot of women just like dressing these styles and aren't doing it for anyone, but it's just labeled that way. But now it arrives faster in comment sections and duets, sometimes from complete strangers who build entire reaction videos around someone's eyeliner shape or fragrance collection. You're no longer just consuming beauty content, you're participating in a cultural tribunal. A 30-second clip become the basis for assumptions about your intelligence, class, and self-worth. Pick-me has become the shorthand for everything that's too much, too sparkly, too curated, too eager to please. It's the new language of aesthetic judgment, and it's rarely used with kindness. Nowhere is this more apparent in the resurgence of girlhood aesthetics. Pastel bows, ballet flats, ruffled collars, soft focus blush, and heart-shaped purses. All of these evoke early 2000s girlhood and the gentle fantasy of being soft, pretty, and an untouched cynicism. I mean, I'm very attracted to super feminine fashion. Like, I wear a lot of dresses and florals. I love pink. So, like, I'm not intentionally trying to be a soft girl. I've just always been more on the feminine side and attracted to that style of fashion. For some, these choices are deeply nostalgic, a way of reclaiming the self-expression that girlhood once denied them. I mean, maybe people do that subconsciously, but I don't think it's necessarily intentional. And online, you're expected to either defend it with a dissertation or risk being dismissed as immature or a pick-me in disguise. The possibility that a woman might wear pink because she simply likes it seems somehow unthinkable. But what's often lost in this discourse is the space for play. The joy of trying something new or of getting it wrong. Of wearing a strawberry scented lip gloss not because it makes you look effortlessly kissable, but because it reminds you of middle school, sleepovers, or the pages of Atelier catalog. I mean, I do like nostalgic makeup in a way. I feel like subconsciously I always love frosted eyeshadow. Like I even bought, I think it's like a Maybelline eyeshadow stick that's frosted and it's like a light soft white color, and I think it's because subconsciously I used to have one in high school by Maybelline, and for a while frosted wasn't really back and you couldn't find it anywhere, so now I'm like into it again. And there was a time when our beauty choices weren't about branding ourselves for a digital audience, but about creating tiny rituals of pleasure, painting your nails on a Sunday night, trying your mom's old lipstick, layering too much body glitter because you could. Today, these small moments have been repackaged as content, and with that shift, the stakes feel higher. You're not just doing it for your makeup, you're constructing an identity, and you're being watched. Even the trend of de-influencing, a recent TikTok movement where creators discourage unnecessary beauty purchases, has taken on a certain aesthetic performance. The de-influencer still wears flawless skin tint and perfectly balanced brows. She still sits in a softly lit room, sipping on oat milk latte, explaining which $80 moisturizer didn't live up to the hype. The message is supposed to be anti-capitalist, but it still is filtered through a visual language that reinforces a particular kind of aesthetic privilege: clean, minimal, and aspirational. Even when we're told not to buy into the fantasy is still being sold. What we're witnessing isn't a rejection of beauty, it's a rewriting of its rules. And like the rules of the past, these too are rooted in class, race, and the persistent idea that the right kind of beauty should appear effortless, tasteful, and above all else invisible. Anything too visible, too sparkly, too bold, or too online becomes suspect. And that's where the term "pick me" does its quiet damage. It punishes women for enjoying visibility, for leaning into pleasure, for being obvious. The truth is, we're simply found new language for old anxieties. We used to call women vain. Then we called them fake. Now we call them pick-me's. The script changes, but the judgment remains. It's still a way to shame women for how they look and to police the line between acceptable and excessive femininity. But maybe we don't need to decode every blush choice or lip gloss texture. Maybe in time, when every aesthetic is treated as an identity, the most radical thing we can do is stop apologizing for liking what we like. Sometimes shimmer is just shimmer, sometimes a bow is just a bow, and sometimes the most authentic beauty isn't the one that performs restraint, but the one that simply refuses to explain itself. Here's the truth: the pick-me insult is often just a new form of the old shame, a way to police how women look, dress, and express themselves, but now cloaked in irony and cool girl disapproval. But beauty historically has never been about just looking good. It's about being good, looking a certain way to signal virtue, class, obedience, and defiance. So whether you're a clean girl, a glam girl, or a glitter goblin, or a little bit of everything, you don't need to justify it, because the history of beauty is filled with contradictions. But maybe the future doesn't have to be. So the next time someone calls your favorite product a pick-me, ask yourself, pick me for what? By whom? And why do I even care? Maybe the only person we need to be picked by is ourselves. I mean, I'm always just gonna be me and choose what I like. I mean, I don't even like adhere to any of these aesthetics, but maybe subconsciously, I've always liked feminine aesthetics. So maybe I was coquette even before coquette was a thing, because I love like over the top, like florals, like the Marie Antoinette style, but I wasn't like intentional, if that makes sense. So anyways, let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this topic? All right, thanks for watching.